The Galactic Naval Academy Strategy Hall hummed with the confident chatter of 24 species. Crystalline Vortac cadets flickered between visible spectrums as they discussed formation patterns. The gelatinous melody students rippled with excitement, their translucent bodies pulsing in synchronized waves. At the back of the amphitheater, unnoticed and unremarkable, sat the lone human. Emily Martinez had learned early that keeping quiet served her well. 3 months into her first year at the academy, she discovered that most species viewed humans as primitive curiosities. Deathworlders who somehow achieved spaceflight despite evolving on a planet with crushing gravity, toxic oxygen levels, and predators that would send most civilized beings into catatonic shock. Professor Zix Theta, a mantis-like klaxori whose compound eyes could track 37 different students simultaneously, clacked his mandibles to bring order. Today's examination will determine your preliminary fleet rankings. The scenario: defend the Helix Station from a swarm incursion using standard galactic naval protocols. The holographic display materialized, showing the famous last stand at Helix Station, a battle that had been dissected in military academies for centuries. The defending fleet had held for 17 hours before succumbing to the swarm's relentless assault. It was considered the gold standard for defensive strategy. You have 1 hour to submit your battle plans, Zix Theta announced. The simulators will run your strategies simultaneously. The cadet whose fleet survives longest will receive top marks. Emily watched her classmates dive into their work, fingers and tentacles and pseudopods dancing across their interfaces. They all followed the same pattern, the orthodox defensive shell formation, with capital ships forming concentric rings around the station. It was exactly what the original fleet had done. She pulled up the historical data instead, studying the swarm's attack patterns. Everyone focused on the 17-hour defense, but Emily noticed something else. The swarm had taken 36 hours to reach Helix Station after being detected. 36 hours of predictable, straight-line approach through a debris field from a previous battle. A smile tugged at her lips. While her classmates refined their defensive shells, Emily programmed something entirely different. She scattered her fleet throughout the debris field along the swarm's approach vector. No defensive formation, no concentrated firepower, just individual ships hidden among twisted metal and frozen atmosphere. Time, Professor Zix Theta announced. The main display split into 25 sections, each showing a different simulation running in accelerated time. 24 screens showed variations of the same theme, neat defensive formations meeting the swarm head-on. Ships fired in coordinated volleys. Shields overlapped in perfect geometric patterns. One screen showed chaos. Emily's fleet wasn't fighting. Her ships were running, but not away. They darted between debris chunks, firing not at the swarm, but at the wreckage itself. Massive hull sections tumbled through space. Dead reactor cores spun end over end. A graveyard of metal began to move. "What is the human doing?" someone whispered. The swarm, programmed with real historical behavior patterns, reacted as they always did to obstacles they went around. But Emily's ships kept herding debris into their path, creating an ever-shifting maze. The swarm's formation, designed for overwhelming direct assault, began to stretch and distort. Then Emily's trap snapped shut. Her ships hadn't been randomly moving debris. They'd been building a funnel, a narrow corridor of clear space that looked like the path of least resistance. The swarm, following their base programming, condensed their formation to push through. Emily's entire fleet, hidden behind a wall of spinning wreckage, opened fire into the narrow passage. It was a turkey shoot. The strategy hall fell silent. On 24 screens, defensive formations crumbled under the swarm's assault, lasting between 15 and 19 hours, respectable recreations of the historical battle. On Emily's screen, the swarm dissolved into drifting particles after just 6 hours of engagement. But her fleet hadn't defended Helix Station. They'd never even reached it. Professor Zix Theta's compound eyes fixed on Emily. "Cadet Martinez, explain your strategy." Emily stood, feeling every gaze in the room. "The assignment was to defend Helix Station, sir. It didn't specify where." She gestured to her screen. The original fleet made the swarm's job easy by staying put. I figured the best defense was making sure they never arrived. You used debris as a weapon, Six Theta said slowly. Turned the battlefield itself against them. Humans have a saying, sir. Fight smarter, not harder. The swarm expected standard tactics because that's all they'd ever faced. So I gave them something else. The Vortak cadet nearest her flickered through several agitated color spectrums. That's not proper fleet doctrine. Emily shrugged. Neither is losing. Professor Zixtheta's mandibles clicked, the Klaxori equivalent of laughter. Cadet Martinez receives full marks. Class dismissed. As students filed out, muttering in various languages, Emily packed her materials quietly. She'd learned something valuable today. The galaxy's civilized species had forgotten something her Deathworld had taught humanity long ago. Survival didn't care about proper doctrine. Sometimes the quiet girl in the back had the deadliest ideas.